it's Christina from the Ann Arbor Hands-On Museum, and today I'm going to show you how to make some do-it-yourself lava lamps using common ingredients that you probably have at home. So on my board I have 3 different recipes depending on what stuff you might have at home. The first recipe is the one that we use a lot at the museum, which uses water, vegetable oil, food coloring, and Alka-Seltzer tablets. Unfortunately, I don't have any Alka-Seltzer tablets at home, so I'm actually going to try to use recipe number 2. Recipe number 2 calls for vegetable oil, baking soda, vinegar, and food coloring, which you probably have somewhere in your kitchen, so ask your parents if you can use some of it. But if for some reason you don't have baking soda and vinegar, you can even do this with just water, vegetable oil, salt, and food coloring. So if you have any of these ingredients in your kitchen, you might be able to make your own lava lamp. As I said, I'm going to be making recipe number 2. So I have vegetable oil, baking soda, vinegar, my food coloring, and a glass to put everything in, and also a spoon. So that's what you'll need to get started. Go ahead and gather your ingredients. You probably want to set this up in your kitchen or somewhere where you can easily clean up in case you accidentally spill. I put a paper towel down too, so make sure that you're taking some precautions to keep things clean. And let's go ahead and get started. Okay, now that I've got you a closer view, and here's my lovely hands-on and Leslie cup that I'm using as my container. The first thing that we're going to do is add the baking soda to our glass. You can also do this in a bottle if you want it to be something that lasts a little longer, or you can just do it in a glass. I'm going to take about 3 spoonfuls of my baking soda and put it in the bottom of my glass. 2 and 3. It doesn't really matter how exact you are about this, but you do want enough baking soda in the bottom of the glass that it kind of covers the whole bottom of the glass and there's no big holes in your baking soda layer. The next layer that we will be adding to our glass is going to be our vegetable oil. You can use pretty much any of your cooking oils, vegetable oils, olive oil, any type of oil will work for this. And then we're going to fill our cup till about 2/3 full with the vegetable oil. There we go. And you do not have to mix the baking soda and the vegetable oil. You just need to let the baking soda form a little layer at the bottom of the vegetable oil, and that is perfectly fine. You might see some released air bubbles getting released already coming up. The next step is we're going to take a separate glass or a bowl and mix our vinegar with a few drops of whatever color of food coloring you want to use. So for me, I think I'm going to be using my blue food coloring, but you could do any color you want. And I'm going to put some of my vinegar in my glass. Again, it doesn't have to be a huge amount because we just need enough vinegar that it will get to the bottom of our other glass. And next, once I stop this from falling down, I'm going to add my food coloring into my vinegar and just let that mix together. The more food coloring you add, obviously the darker your color will be. You don't have to go crazy. You can make any color you want, but I'm going to go with 3 drops so that I get a nice deep blue color here. Perfect. So now I have my vinegar and then I have my oil with the baking soda on the bottom. Can any of you at home guess what's going to happen when I start adding my vinegar mixture into my other glass? You might have seen a similar reaction happening if you've ever made a homemade volcano, because the vinegar and the baking soda will react, and that's how we're going to get our lava lamp effect. So to do this and to make the reaction last longer, I'm only going to add a little bit of vinegar at a time and see what happens. Okay, I'm starting to get a reaction here. I'm going to hold this up so you can see a little clearer. Now you see that there are bubbles getting released from the bottom of my glass where the vinegar is reacting with the baking soda, and they are rising up to the top of the glass, and then sinking back down. And the food coloring is letting us see where these bubbles are really clearly, which is nice. So I only added a little bit so far, so if I add some more, I'll get even more of a reaction. As you can see now, I've got a lot of bubbles happening in my glass. Also, I have a lot that are coming up to the top, which is pretty cool. And then they are sinking back down after they've lost some of the gas at the top. Ooh, there's a nice big bubble. Very cool. My lava lamp is full of lava. So you can keep doing this and keep adding more and more vinegar to see more and more reaction. And while you're doing that, I want you to think about what you think is happening. Did what happened surprise you? Did you think that's what's going to happen? Why do you think it's happening? And what would happen if we maybe did this in a different order? What if I added the vinegar first instead of the baking soda on the bottom? Or what if I added the vegetable oil at a different point in this reaction? Would it change what I'm seeing here? Have a little fun and experiment at home. But now we're going to talk a little bit about why we're seeing this reaction right after I show you a final nice picture of my beautiful lava lamp. You could even add vinegar of different colors and mix it and see what happens, which might be a fun experiment to try next. Okay, so now that we've made our lava lamps, you might be wondering why they work the way that they do. You guys might have made some guesses while we were making it, but let's walk through it really quickly. The first thing we want to talk about are chemical reactions. The thing that's happening between our baking soda and our vinegar is a chemical reaction, which means that the molecules, the small little bits that make up both of the substances, are actually combining and changing and forming a new type of molecule. And chemical reactions often create several different products. One of the products of our chemical reaction are these gas bubbles that are rising to the surface of our vegetable oil. That is different from a physical reaction where we just mix things together the way that we mixed our food coloring and our vinegar, because that didn't actually change the molecules of food coloring and vinegar. They just hung out together in the same glass. So that's a chemical reaction. But why are these bubbles of our product from the reaction rising to the top of the vegetable oil? And that's a really important question too, because it has to do with the density of the oil and the buoyancy of the gas bubbles. So basically, the oil is a pretty thick, dense substance, and our gas is a really light, less dense substance, so it wants to rise to the top because the denser things will sink to the bottom. Our vinegar and food coloring layer sunk to the bottom because it was denser than the oil, where it then reacted with our layer of baking soda to create these less dense bubbles that are rising up to the top. At the top, you can see that there is some fizzing where the gas is being released, and once the gas is released, the bubbles are sinking back down to the bottom because they're no longer so buoyant. So that's the really basic version of what's happening in our little lava lamp, and it's a really fun chemical reaction that you can do at home in your own kitchen. And I told you there was another version of this that we could do if you didn't have baking soda and vinegar, or if you didn't have Alka-Seltzer, and that is just water, vegetable oil, salt, and food coloring. So I'm going to do this one really quick because it works on the same principles as our last one, in that we're using the differences between the water and the food coloring and the vegetable oil to create a difference in the density, which will create some interesting results. So I'm going to pour in some water into my glass, and then I'm going to pour some vegetable oil. What do you think is going to happen when I do this? Put a little bit more. Okay, so I'll give you a closer look of what just happened here. But as you can see, my vegetable oil went to the top of my glass because the water is more dense and the vegetable oil is less dense, so the vegetable oil is hanging out on top. The other reason is that water has a different polarity, or the molecules have a different makeup than the molecules of the vegetable oil, so they don't like to mix together. They try to stay apart. So I have my vegetable oil in my water, and I have a nice layer at the top. I can add some food coloring as well to make this more exciting. And then mix this up a little bit. And I think I'll add a second color of food coloring too, which gave me a nice, interesting green color to my water. And you can also see some of the food coloring trapped in the vegetable oil. So that's fun. Now I have a little bit of salt, and I'm going to add the salt into this mix of water and vegetable oil. Wow, do you see what happened there? So the salt caused some of the vegetable oil to drop to the bottom of my glass. But then, once it's been there for a while, it starts to rise back up to the top. And I'm also getting some food coloring that got released from where it was trapped in the vegetable oil, which is making a very interesting mix in my glass. A bit different from our last reaction, a bit slower, not as many bubbles, but still a fun experiment to try. All right, that's it. Thanks for joining me on Do-It-Yourself Lava Lamps, and we hope to see you next time with some of our other videos that we'll be posting soon. Have a great afternoon, everyone.